Hey everybody, it's Jim here, and we are down to the final two guitars that I'm going to be making the case for in this little mini-series I started a few months ago. Today's focus is the Gibson Les Paul, and also other Les Paul style instruments from different manufacturers, because there are quite a few that make an awesome version of this guitar. Few ground rules, as always. You did hear an intro lick. You are going to hear something at the end. It's possible I squeezed something in the middle of this video for a sound sample, but as a whole here, it's mostly just going to be me talking about what I like about the model, some potential cons, and just other little tidbits of information I've had from years of experience of playing with these things. So if you're interested in seeing a full demo of this guitar, I'll leave a link up here. You can click on that. Otherwise, I'm ready to get started. Now, when I first started playing guitar, it was on a Stratocaster that had a 25.5-inch scale length on it. And the first time that I played a Gibson Les Paul, I noticed a difference right away for two reasons. This is a 24 3/4, in case you're not familiar with the Gibsons. The first thing that I noticed was I felt like it was so much more compact because it felt closer to my body, more of an extension of myself than the Stratocaster, which felt just slightly more distant in that sense because of the scale length to it. I really liked that. But the other thing, the main thing that I really appreciated about the shorter scale length of the Gibson was the string tension was noticeably less than on a Stratocaster when they were tuned to the same tuning. That results in a few things kind of impact my playing a little bit. When I'm doing a lot of rhythm work, because primarily I'm a rhythm guitar player, I do a lot of funk riffs and syncopation. So if I want to add vibrato with my left hand, since the string tension is less on one of these guitars, simply requires a little less effort, and I really do appreciate that, and it makes these things a joy to play. Another thing I really like about Les Pauls, or traditional ones for the most part, is how streamlined the controls are when you compare them with some other instruments. For example, three-way toggle switch. This particular Les Paul the Gibson got is only one volume and one tone, but on a regular one, you would have one for each pickup, so resulting in 4 total. I don't really care for ones that have coil splits. It's really cool, and it adds a little bit of versatility if you're somebody who does want the guitar to be able to do that. But just the foundation of how this was built, I feel it's a perfect mix of simplicity in that sense when it comes to electronics. Other things of note as far as the feel goes, it feels at home like a Telecaster to me for two reasons. First is you don't have a belly cut on the majority of Les Pauls that are available from Gibson. Now, when we get into other brands, yeah, there's a lot of them. They're going to have much different thinner neck profiles, compound radiuses, regular standard, stainless steel frets, and all that other kind of fun stuff. But I like having nothing here. I like how the guitar just sits up just like this, easy to reach to. It's like the Gibson version of a Telecaster to me, and that's the best possible praise I can give to any instrument. And when it comes to the sounds of a Les Paul, most people immediately associate them with classic rock, hard rock, metal, a lot of lead stuff that has dirt and grime on it, and it is amazing for all of that. But I feel it's underappreciated when it comes to the clean tones that you can get out of these guitars if it has the correct kind of pickups to work with that style of music for you. I love how big and warm that this guitar can feel on the neck pickup, and then in between, like I was saying, I play a lot of funk. I feel like it really works well, and it can add a good variation and kind of depth to the guitar tone compared to something that might sound a little bit thinner, for example, like a Fender Mustang or a Jaguar. But outside of the funk and the kind of syncopated stuff that I enjoy playing here, you have heard these guitars on countless records from genres you might not have known about. I've heard Les Pauls on country records, believe it or not. These are a staple for a lot of jazz guitarists as well. It just really can do a lot more than people give it credit for. But these guitars really shine once you start introducing gain into your tones. You put any proper Les Paul, and it doesn't even need to be a Gibson, as I alluded to earlier, through a solid tube amp, crank it up, there's nothing like it. The fact that it's a mahogany, glued in neck, sustains forever. It is just, it's amazing. It's the one thing that, you know, the Telecaster can rock a little bit, but this can really put it to the next level in that sense, and I love it about this model. But when it comes to the comfort of playing this guitar, sitting down, it's an absolute joy to play. I find no issues with that whatsoever. Ergonomically, designed very well for that. Standing up, depending on, the weight of the specific guitar that you're looking at. And that's going to vary based on the brand or the model of Gibson. If you decide to go with a Gibson in this route, it can be a little bit heavy and a little bit bad on your back after longer shows. But that being said, it's not going to neck dive like some other models that Gibson and other brands make, leading it for a much more stable and reliable performance in that aspect. Now, the pros to this guitar are huge pros, but there are a few cons that I just have to mention. The first being, a lot of people will say that these guitars do not hold tune as well as some other instruments, and I would tend to agree with that. Compared to a Telecaster, this is nowhere near as reliable, even compared to a Paul Reed Smith. I could pick up that Paul Reed Smith in a month without touching it, and it's gonna be in tune. This thing, no, absolutely, there's no chance that this is gonna hold tune, even with the nut lubricated, the strings wound up correctly. It's just, it is what it is, and it's kind of something that you grow used to after a while. And part of the reason why there's a little bit of tuning instability with these guitars compared to other brands. Think of how a Fender Telecaster or a PRS like the one behind me, the strings go straight through the nut. With the Gibson here, they go off at angles. The angles being introduced, especially with the notorious G string here, can lead to some issues with the guitar staying in tune. One way that you can kind of fight off against that, when you are stringing up your guitar, make sure that you're having them go upwards on the actual tuning pegs instead of downwards. By doing that, what you're doing is you're reducing the break angle that's coming off of the nut to the tuners, and thus making it a little bit of a clearer path for it to be able to stay in tune better. The second con is something we already talked about in this video, which might not be a con to you, and that is the actual weight of these guitars. You're talking mahogany body, mahogany neck. If you want something that's not weight relieved and not from the custom shop, from Gibson or another brand, you're looking at least 9 pounds, 9 times out of 10. You might say, oh, that's not that bad. It's really not, but I've seen 11 pounds, 12 pounds, just absolute behemoths of guitars, and that might be a deal breaker for you. So if you've never played a Les Paul, try it in person before you actually buy it, because it can physically kind of cause you a little bit of soreness and pain if you're coming from an instrument that's a little bit lighter and adjusting to something like this. It might be a little rough for you. But a solution to this is to simply seek out a model that might be a little bit lighter if that's something that's really important to you. There are a lot of Gibsons that have different levels of weight relief on them if you're okay with having the kind of Swiss cheese underneath the top of the guitar. But then there's other brands as well, like ESP LTDs. On average, I see those under 8 pounds on a fairly regular basis. Excellent guitars as well. The E2 series, step up from that, made in Japan. Phenomenal. Still lightweight. You still get the core kind of ingredients to a Les Paul with those, albeit with one less knob on them because of, copyrights and all those fun things. And the third final potential con here is price. If you're somebody who really wants the real deal as far as a Gibson goes, say you want a Les Paul standard used, minimum, unless you're really lucky in person, about $2,000 US for one that does not have a broken headstock on it. That's not cheap. If you want one new from Gibson, I think it's $27.99. That is brutal, almost $3,000 after tax added into it. So some people are not really the biggest fans of lesser models because they don't have the exact look of an older Gibson, meaning there's no binding. And that really does make a difference to some people. Some people will not play studios because there's no binding on the neck and no binding on the body on a lot of those models. But the good news here is you have so many other brands, and this is where I'm going to give some other shine to other manufacturers. At the very low end, you have a few really good options. You have Harley Benton between $200 and $300 that put out a really decent quality product. Some of them even come with Japanese hardware from Goto. High quality stuff that you would want to upgrade on something like a Tribute potentially if you went the Gibson route. Not much to complain about when it comes to that. Step up from that, staying within the Gibson family of products, you do have Epiphone, and they've upped their game quite a bit over the last few years, and I think that that's just par for the course. The more any one factory gets used to building guitars and the more that they make them, the better the product is going to be. We've seen it before with Indonesia and Korea as well. I have a lot of faith in those, and I hear nothing but good things from a lot of people that own those guitars. The real sweet spot for me would be the price range right above that, and that is used, made in Japan. Bernie, Tokai, Orville by Gibson, some of the ESP or the Edwards guitars that are not available here, those do have the 4 knobs and do look a lot more traditional to the Gibson version of them. Just be wary of where you purchase if you want to go the made in Japan route. There are several shops that really kind of price gouge on reverb, and I would just do a little bit of homework, try to buy directly from Japan. I have videos explaining how you can do that. I'll leave a link to one up here. Save yourself a bunch of money and get a really high quality product. Then got Gibson themselves if you want the real deal as far as the brand goes and that matters to you. You also have PRS, who make a great single cut. The S2s are great. Even the SE single cuts, really cool guitars. The Tremontes, you have a lot of options for that. But no, with the Paul Reed Smiths, you're not going to get the same scale length. You're either going to get a 25-inch scale length if you want a single cut, or the 24-594 McCarty. That comes with a single cut as well. Much more flavor to a Gibson style instrument, but with Paul's unique twist on it. Highest grades you're going to get here, my top 3. You would have Navigator from Japan. They've been building these since the 70s. They are really hard to beat, but they're also really hard to come by. You have the Gibson Historic, and you can get crazy. If you want to go to Murphy Lab or anything like that, you could be spending what a used car used to cost these days, upwards of $7, $8, $9, even $10,000. But really, the best American maker of a Les Paul style instrument in my book that's made here, that's gotta be the Collings. Try one of those. If you are fortunate enough to live near a store that stocks those, get your butt in there, give it a try, even just for the experience. Outstanding guitars. But even with those aforementioned cons, the pros outweigh them tenfold to me. I love these guitars. There's only one that I like more than a real good Les Paul, and we'll be talking about that one on the next episode. I think you might have an idea of what that is, and no, it's not an SG. We're not doing an episode on an SG. But if you found this video useful, feel free to hit the like button. It is free. Subscribing is also free if you enjoy the content overall on this channel. But if you want to take it a step further, you can join some of the coolest people in the whole world like Evan, Ian, Rafa, Matt, and Larry David himself. Yeah, it's just the alias that we have given him. And become a member of this channel and show an extra little bit of support. It is greatly appreciated from all of you who choose to do that. And feel free to leave a comment down below. Let me know what your favorite Les Paul is, even if it's not a Gibson. I always like hearing back from you guys. Until the next video, I hope you have a great rest of your day. Take it easy.